If you have been watching my tutorials for a while now, then you would know I love a good scrap yarn project, and that is exactly what this project is. I mean, you definitely can make this hat with just one solid color, but in my mind, this pattern is made for the scrap yarn with this multicolor look here. So in this video, I'm going to be making one with this color palette here, primarily using blues, and I'm mixing a little bit of the black and the brown. I also have these two very thin yarns, this blue one and this white one are quite thin yarns, and I'm going to be mixing that in with the thicker yarn. So I'll be crocheting with two yarns at the same time sometimes to add a little extra look and a little extra texture to the hat. So again, color mixing is completely optional for this. I personally think it looks best with lots and lots of different colors, but you can make your hat with as many or as few colors as you want. And I am using, as I said, a bunch of scrap yarn, all generally around the same size. I think most of it, actually I'd probably say all of it, is acrylic yarn, and I will be using about a 5.25 millimeter hook for this project. So I started by casting on my very first color, and now we're going to begin by chaining 41. 40 and 41. So now here's my chain of 41, and just know that this chain is going to be for the hat height-wise, not circumference. So before you go ahead and do this and be like, oh no, that's not going to fit around my head and add more chains, just know this is not the circumference of the hat. This is going to be the height of the hat. So trust me and commit to those 41 chains, which I believe is about a standard size hat. So then I'm going to go ahead and place one single crochet into the first 5 chains. So here's 1, 2, and 5 single crochets, like so. We're then going to do 18 half double crochets into the next 18 chain stitches. So in case you need the reminder, a half double crochet is where you yarn over, insert your hook right into that chain or stitch, and then you yarn over, pull that yarn through. So you have 3 loops here on your hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops. That's a half double crochet. So you're going to do 18 of these half double crochets. Here's 17 and 18 of these half double crochets, and now you should have a remaining 18 chains left here at the end, and we're going to go ahead and place 18 double crochets into those last chains. So 18 just normal double crochets. So here are our 18 double crochets. So now we have one row here of single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet. I just need to quickly interject and tell you that I did get one small detail wrong in the remainder of this tutorial. So when you watch me, when we go back to the normal tutorial, you're going to see that I'm just normally going along, inserting my hook right into the stitch and crocheting, which I completely forgot. That is not what we're supposed to be doing for this hat. We are supposed to be working into the back loop instead. So if you go to the top of your project here, you can see that there are 2 loops that make up one stitch. There's the front loop and the back loop. And typically when you crochet, and what I will be doing in this tutorial, is you just insert your hook into the entire stitch like so, picking up both loops on your hook. But for this project, you're instead going to pick up just the back loop. So we're going to go to the top here, and you're going to insert your hook in between these 2 loops, picking up just the back one, and then creating your stitch. So there's my little point. Sorry that I forgot that. And just ignore when I put my hook into the whole stitch going forward. Work into just the back loop. All right, let's get back to where the tutorial was before. So then we're going to start our next row, and we're going to begin by chaining 2, and then turn our work, and then you're going to place 18 double crochets back into this next row. So same as the previous row, we're going to do 18 double crochets. Okay, and I'm currently only 6 double crochets into this next row, but I want to go ahead and change my color right here. So what I'm going to do to change colors is I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to cut my yarn, and I'm going to leave a bit of a tail so I can weave it in later. And then I'm just going to take my hook and just pull, which secures the yarn in place. So then going to that very last stitch we left off on, I'm going to insert my hook right into that stitch. And then I'm going to bring my new yarn, which is this light blue, through, like so. And again, I'm making sure I have a bit of a tail here with that new yarn as well to weave it in later. I'm going to chain 1 to lock it in place. And now we're going to continue like normal. So I'm kind of holding the tails out of the way so I can crochet like normal. I'm going to yarn over, and then insert my hook right into this next stitch and begin completing my double crochets. And then I'm just going to continue along like normal, finishing up on these 18 double crochets. Okay, here's my 18th double crochet. So then we're going to go ahead and do 18 half double crochets, just like in the previous row. Okay, and then here's 17 and 18. So now these remaining 5 stitches here of our row is going to be single crochet. 4 and 5 of those single crochet stitches. And now because we're ending on our single crochet row, we're going to chain just 1. So when you end on double crochet, to start a new row, you chain 2. When you're starting a new row on the single crochet side, you chain 1. So I went ahead and I chained 1. I'm now going to flip my work, and then we're going to do the exact same thing, doing 5 single crochets. So here are my 5 single crochets, and then we're going to do 18 half double crochets. So at this point, I'm ready to integrate a little bit more color, so I'm going to bring in this super thin blue yarn, and I'm going to add it to the pre-existing yarn I'm currently working on. So the way I do that is I'm going to make sure, again, I have a little bit of a tail here, and then I'm going to just sandwich them together like this, and then hold my yarn how I normally do to crochet, and then pinch that tight so that the 2 yarns are essentially inseparable right now. I'm going to yarn over. Again, I'm holding this extra yarn tight to the back of my project, and I'm going to insert my hook right into the next stitch, and I'm going to place my half double crochet like so. So now about 3 stitches later, you can clearly see that both strands of yarn are securely attached to the project. They're not going anywhere. And then we have our little tail here at the back that we can weave in later for that loose yarn. And again, this part is completely optional. You do not at all have to work with 2 strands of yarn. You also don't ever have to change colors if you don't want to for this project. But these are the ways that I will be changing colors and working with mixed yarn throughout this project. Okay, and then here's my last double crochet. And then again, because we're ending on the side of the row that is double crochet, I'm going to chain 2. So if you end on the single crochet side, you chain 1, and on the double crochet side, you chain 2, to then turn your work and start your next row. And that is honestly all there is to it for this hat. You're just going to go ahead and work your way back with your double crochet, half double crochet, and then your little bit of single crochet, and you're just going to keep doing more and more rows of this until you have one big panel of crochet that is long enough that you can wrap it around your head. And so again, this part here is actually going to be the height of your hat. So this is the top section, this is the middle, and then this double crochet section is the brim of your hat, which you can fold over once it's done. And so you're going to be making it width-wise to fit around your head. And so here is a previous hat that I made, and you can see we have the double crochet, the half double crochet, and then up here at the top is the single crochet. So you're just going to keep going all the way along, adding more rows until it's long enough that you can wrap it around your head like you would a normal hat. So I'm going to go ahead and complete a bunch more rows in this same manner, and I'll see you once I have a panel that is long enough that we can then assemble the hat. Okay, so I have now completed my entire panel for this hat, which, as you can see, if you were to hold it together, this would fit me perfectly as a hat should. And I just absolutely adore this color palette. I think this one turned out so pretty. So now we can go ahead and actually assemble the hat. So you're going to start by picking what you want the wrong side to be. It does not matter which side you pick, just look at both sides of your project, and whichever side you think is uglier, less presentable, that is going to be the wrong side of your project. And you can, of course, weave in all these loose ends before you assemble the hat if you prefer to do that. I definitely leave all of my loose ends on any project till the very last moment, so I'm just going to leave them hanging here until we've assembled the hat, and then I'll take care of them. So I'm going to look at my project and decide which side I like least. I think that this one is my least favorite, so this is going to be my wrong side. So I'm going to put that so it's face down, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring the sides together, like so. So we should have the wrong side on the outside here. Okay, so now that I have this folded over so that the edges are lined up, we can go ahead and take our next color yarn, which I just picked whichever color on either of these sides I liked more, and I'm going to go ahead and do this brown to match this side. I'm going to get a really long tail of this, longer than what you would need for the length of the hat, because we're also going to use it to attach the top. So I'm going to get a decently long strand of yarn. I'm going to go ahead and cut that. Now you can see I have quite a long strand, much longer than what I'm going to need, and I'm just going to thread my needle with that yarn, like so. So now I'm going to start on the right side of the hat, and holding my project like this, I'm going down to the very first stitch, inserting my needle into the back loop. I'm going to go ahead and pull this through. I'm leaving a bit of a tail here at the end so I can weave that in later. And I'm going to go ahead and reinsert my needle into the exact same stitch from the exact same side we did previously. So those back loops, like so. That extra stitch just helps to lock the yarn in place. So now I'm going to go over to the other side of my hat here. So on this one, I'm going down to the very bottom stitch, and I'm actually going to insert my hook into the front loop for this one. So there's the two loops on the top. I'm inserting my hook through just the front loop. And then going over to the other side, I'm going to pick up the back loop of this stitch, like so. And then on this side, we're picking up the front loop. Right here, right into that front section or loop, like so. Then going to the other side, again, I'm picking up just that back loop of the stitch. And on this side, we're picking up the front loop. And by stitching into the back and then the front and then the back and the front loops of both of these sides, you are simulating what is this sort of rib crochet on all the other stitches. That way you won't have an obvious seam of where you sewed the hat together. So that's why we're picking up the back loop and then the front loop on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and just continue working my way all the way down this hat, picking up the back loop on this side, and then the front loop on the other side. I'm pulling it nice and tight all the way down until I reach the top of my hat. I'm putting in my very last stitch here at the top of the hat, because right now it's just a big old open hole here at the top, so we need to secure that and tighten it closed. So I'm going to use the exact same yarn that I used to sew up the hat, which is why I said to have a longer tail. And I'm going to go ahead and just sort of cinch in the top. We're going to do that by working our needle through the top of these stitches. So there's no real rhyme or reason on where to put your needle. Just anywhere you see an empty hole or an empty stitch, just put your needle right through it. So anywhere I see a sort of opening or a stitch along the edge here, I'm inserting my needle. And I found that it is easier to do this if you do not pull the needle tight until the very end, which is why I'm just weaving the needle in and out and not actually pulling it into any stitches. Otherwise it bunches up too quickly and it's hard to find where you need to put the needle next. So I'm just weaving it in and out of each of these stitches, and we'll give it a good pull right at the end. Okay, so now I've inserted my needle through that last stitch that we started on, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it through. And I'm going to take my time slowly tightening this top by pulling the needle and kind of meshing the stitches around. I'm going to be careful I'm not pulling it too hard. I don't want to rip the yarn. And I'm just making this really tight here at the top. So I've now pulled it as tight as I can before that yarn's about to break. And you can see that there is still a bit of a hole here at the top. So I'm going to go around again and sort of pull these stitches in tighter, inserting my needle wherever I feel like I need to, and just pulling this completely closed. So this time around you can see I'm skipping a couple stitches, that way I can get an even tighter fit. So I'm going past these few stitches here and I'm grabbing this one. That way I can get it even more cinched in, like that. And I'm just going around grabbing every few stitches with my needle and pulling it tight to the center. Okay, and so now you can see it is completely closed. There's no opening at the top of the hat. And so here is our completed hat. You have to wear it a few times to really get stretched out and looking good. At first it looks a little bit shrunken and wonky, but we're going to go ahead and flip it to the right side. Like so. So I'm going to go ahead and weave in all these loose ends, and that is your completed hat. And I really hope you like the way it turned out.